Hey, welcome one and all. This is Jeremy Bowling. I am the professor, and you are watching/listening to Movie Community College. And I want to continue some coursework here on X-Force. And I've been kind of picking people who have been part of X-Force just to highlight with the major success of Deadpool the movie. There's talk of a sequel, and there is talk of an X-Force movie. But X-Force, I didn't know a whole lot about. I knew Cable was a part of it, Deadpool and Wolverine. But I thought maybe if we just kind of go through some of the past members, you get a little bit of background information on who they are. So I want to talk about first is Peter Wisdom. Peter Wisdom, he was a member of X-Force. He was going to be based on an idea of a different kind of character. You see imagery of him pulling the sword out of, very, very Excalibur-ish. Matter of fact, I think he made his first appearance in Excalibur, the comic book, but I mean Excalibur from the idea of the movies / ancient writings, medieval writings, and he gets this idea, where we're going to see this creation of the character because he's the one who can pull the sword out like Excalibur. He was born to a Scotland Yard detective sergeant, Harold Wisdom. He has a sister who is in the occult, and she's a former employee, of the police department of Unusual Deaths, Department F66, and an ally of Union Jack. His mother was killed by a mass murderer, Michael Robert Ryan, while waiting for Pete to visit, a visit he had blown off after an argument with her. Both he and his father blame him for her death. He went to join the MI6 and later transferred to its fellow intelligence agency, Black Air, where he alluded to having been in a relationship with his superior. Due to being consistently sent out of Wetworks, which is the idea of assassination assignments, he grew to hate his job and he asked for a transfer. His superior tasked him to act as a non-combatant advisor to Excalibur, who Black Air had requested to investigate in Genosha for them. And in return, he would be permitted to leave Black Air. He borrows Excalibur transport to reach and help an old friend being forced to take Kitty Pryde with him. The two of them end up investigating Black Air's Dream Nails facility and the horrors within, and Wisdom is almost tortured to death by one of his employer's agents. Following this, he is invited to join Excalibur by Kitty, and they start a relationship that leads to an ongoing feud between him and Lockheed. Both Wisdom and Excalibur are able to expose Black Air's link to the Hellfire Club. And the Hellfire Club, of course, are bad guys, and you saw them in that X-Men movie with Kevin Bacon in it. That was the Hellfire Club, with him and the other superheroes. So they're linked to the Hellfire Club. Cripple the organization, prevent its grand scheme. With Kitty, he teams up with his father and his sister and Department F66 to track down an occult serial killer. A remnant cell of Black Air hires a contract killer and former girlfriend of Wisdom to assassinate him. He manages to escape, but Nightcrawler briefly captures the cell. The guilt causes him to become far more antisocial, driving Kitty away, unwilling to see if the relationship can be salvaged. He leaves Excalibur, and after leaving, he now sports an unnecessary eye patch to look sexy. I don't know what maybe he saw Nick Fury and said, that looks hot, I need that. He organizes a group of former intelligent operatives to strike out and back at Black Op agencies and individuals, and requests X-Force's aid in recovering a cybernetic brain from Genosha, fighting Magneto in the process. Wisdom is later seen as a new leader of the team. He acts as a mentor to show team members how to use their mutant powers in new ways. He takes on very much a Charles Xavier feel. When his sister returns, she comes back as a villain. Peter Wisdom is apparently murdered. The remainder of the X-Force, except for Domino, are presumed killed. Wisdom is revealed to still be alive. His survival is supposedly not known to any of the members of X-Force. After M-Day, Wisdom retains his power and is later ordered by MI-13 to find and team with Captain Britain. He joins New Excalibur outside of Excalibur. He works in a strike team for MI-13 that deals with the weird happenings. Think X-Files, things, that kind of stuff. And it clashes with the MI6, who feel that this is their jurisdiction. As a result of his work, he ends up in arranged marriage with his teammate Tink, a fairy, to cement a treaty between the UK and the other worlds. He began a romance with a teammate, Maureen Raven, an Ultra-born psychic, but is eventually forced to kill her to end the Martian invasion of Britain. Following the invasion, Wisdom once again teams up with Captain Britain and other heroes to stop the Skrull invasion of Earth. He is contacted by Merlin, who directs Wisdom into setting him free to resurrect a temporarily deceased Captain Britain. In doing so, Wisdom has to knowingly open a prison for evil magic, as well as entities like Saint Tanish, now owned a boon by the Dark Forces. Wisdom is able to have magical anti-Skrull shield erected around the British Isles, which leaves the nation under a constant threat of the supernatural. Wisdom has to cope with the death of his friend, a John Lennon impersonating Skrull who had worked with him and Spitfire to repel the invasion. MI-13's first battle against the Duke of Hell, who gained power when people willingly sell their souls to live in their heart's desire. Wisdom is tempted with the fantasy of Kitty, Maureen, and everyone he had gotten killed still being alive. His teammate Captain Midlands betrays them to Plokthar in order to live a fantasy where his wife had not died. Disgusted and angry, Wisdom deliberately destroys his fantasy and gets arrested. Understanding that Midland feels now due to his own losses, Pete shows him some mercy and gives him a chance to commit suicide. In the United Kingdom's war against Count Dracula, Wisdom takes a key command role. Despite the initial routing, he devastates a successful tactic of using misinformation, a staged defeat, and blackmailed the Dream Corridors, Plorklar's Dream Corridors, and does a preemptive strike to prevent Dracula and his invasion force from releasing in the UK a magical spell that requires vampires to be invited into its border. The bulk of the vampire army is destroyed in an instant. Wisdom says that Dracula thought he was playing chess, but only could do so if you don't care about the pieces, otherwise you cheat. He's very much got the feel of kind of a John Constantine, right? And he goes by the alias Winston, so no doubt they're pulling off of the lore of the UK and their history. But, you think about the supernatural of what he's dealing with supernatural and vampires and spells, and Excalibur very much has that modern, mystical, middle-aged feel to it. He's able to throw hot knives, which are spikes of sheer energy from his fingertips. He has great leaping ability and is a very experienced spy. So he becomes very, I think, an interesting character to have. He works in the British version, the European version of the Super Soldier program that produced Captain Britain, and whatever. I mean, on that, Captain Britain I never really got into much. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I just find him kind of like a rip-off of Captain America. But anyways, that is Pete Wisdom, who was a member of the X-Force, and probably somebody you should know and look for maybe as these movies continue to go and TV shows. There may be some kind of crossover or version of Pete Wisdom who shows up. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would you please subscribe to the channel? I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.